For more on this, I'm joined by Peter Hakim. He's the President Emeritus of the Inter-American Dialogue, joining us. Good to see you.
Good to see you.
This is not a topic we talk about very often. The World Bank ranks Colombia 43 out of 189 countries in terms of sort of the business environment. The point being, it's not the easiest place to do business, but here you have China, here you have Colombia. Significance of it?
Well, let me say, first of all, 43 is a pretty good ranking within Latin America. I think the best ranking is Chile, which is around 35. You go to Brazil, it's up there in the 60s and 70s. So Colombia actually ranks very, very high among the places in Latin America that are friendly to business.
So what does Colombia get from this relationship with China, besides the obvious of the potential trade deals?
Let me just say that this is the first visit by a senior leader of a senior Chinese leader to Colombia. Chinese leaders, the premier and the president, have visited most of the other major countries of Latin America. In fact, I think Colombia is the third largest country. This is the first visit by prime minister or president. Secondly, I think that there has not been, that Colombia and China trade a lot, but they haven't moved to the next step, where in Brazil and Venezuela and Argentina, the next step being the investment side of it. So China is now the second biggest trading partner of Colombia. And I think China is becoming interested in, it's a business-friendly rather than business-unfriendly country. It's one of the countries that's been most prosperous over the past few years, one of the best managed economies over a 25-year period. And I think that both sides have a lot to gain, but I think this is still an exploratory visit, if you like.
So don't get too carried away yet, but
right.
I think it's fair to say there should be some optimism. As you mentioned,
exactly.
Senior level visitors, they've already shown, at least China has in the past, with other countries in Latin America, comes the delegation, later comes the money, which later comes the investment, which later comes factories.
Trade is the start, and Colombia has that. Now they're moving to the second, investment, and exploiting a Colombia market with 50 million people. It's not a small market. China, it sounds small, but it is.
Do you think China wants to sell goods to those 50 million individuals, or do they want to perhaps build factories and build businesses in those areas to support the network they already have in Latin America?
Their primary interest is the latter, what you said. They want to build access to mines, the oil supplies, the food supplies of Colombia. That's what they've come to Latin America for. But at the same time, if they're trading, they want to sort of export as well as import. And that's happened elsewhere in Latin America.
As with any international cooperation or trade deals, culture is an important part of it. China has one culture. Colombia has a very different culture. And of course, it can be overcome, but it is a challenge. How best would they address that?
Well, I think just working at it. I think
it takes time.
Colombia is not a difficult place to do business. They have a pretty well-organized government, pretty good institutions. They're coming out now of a long-term civil war that should be over in the next year or two with any amount of luck. Colombia is an up-and-coming country in Latin America. It has been behind because of this civil conflict, the drug dealing, but Colombia is making progress, and I think that China realizes that and knows how important it is.
You mentioned a couple of the industries that might possibly benefit: energy, resources. I'm assuming those are the main beneficiaries of any potential Chinese investment, correct?
Right. I suspect that the agricultural products on one hand, mining products, and oil, which is their big export now.
And all three are obviously very big. Peter, good to see you.
Good to see you. I enjoyed it.
Thank you. Always good to have you.